And we are live. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are back, coming in live from our page. So today, just only two of us with me and Maya because Debbie couldn't make it. She has a sick son. So just only two of us and one of our guests today. And as always, our the purpose of this live talk is just only to inspire people, and we just want to share our story and wants to ask some questions to our guests, his journey in running this digital business. So, without further ado, we want to introduce myself first. So my name is Vicky. For those of you who never seen me before, my name is Loupatty-Chapman, and I live in Australia. I've been living in Australia for over 15 years. I'm an employee, and I also run a traditional business with my husband. And now I'm also the proud digital business owner. I'm a wife, and I'm stepmom of the 18 years old boy. So before we go straight to the question, I'm just gonna ask Maya to introduce herself as well, and then going to Femi after. Uh,
Thank you for today, Femi. I'm a mom of two amazing daughters and also a pharmacist as a career, and been doing this digital business for 4 years, and that has given me my time back to be a present mom to my kids. And yes, I'm still working, but as not as much as before. And yeah, just a little bit about me. I'm originally from Indonesia. I've been here in the US since 2007. Go ahead,
Thanks,
Femi.
Maya.
Hi, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you're seeing us from in this beautiful world that God has created. I'm so blessed to be here with you, ladies, today. It's great. It's a great honor and opportunity, and I want to say a big thank you to our viewers from home that are watching us. Thank you for taking
Thank
out
you.
your time to be with us here today. So, my name is Femi. I'm originally from Nigeria. I'm an engineer, and I worked in the oil and gas industry for several years until I found this business. And so, this is what I do now for full time, and we'll talk about that as we go.
Mm,
I'm a father, a husband, just to follow your cue, and a godfather.
Lovely. Thank you, Femi, for the nice introduction. So now we're gonna go straight to the question. So as per normal, we probably just wanted to know, um, as a man who actually have a very good career in the oil and gas, what else do you need? So why do you jump into the online space? I mean, what makes you decide to run a digital business online?
Thank you. It's a great question. Oftentimes, like people get carried away, and by whatever careers that we have or whatever income that we make. Sometimes, because we feel that we're very comfortable, and sometimes we just imagine that things are going to continue like that forever. But a lot of things happen, things change. Nobody ever knew that 5 years ago we're going to be asked to stay home, but it did happen, and
Mm.
that was a wake up call for me. But prior to that, I'd always wanted to step out of the oil and gas industry because I worked offshore,
Mm.
and I needed to be there to make sure that those things happen. It was a job that I enjoyed, and income was great. It was great exposure, almost everything that you need from a job. Um, but my time wasn't mine, because I was paid as you go. So what that meant is that when I'm not present, I was not earning. I needed to be physically present. And as long as it was pay as you go, it meant that I had the potential to make a lot of income. But how much income I was going to make was dependent on how long I was willing to stay away from the ones that I love. So, I was like, between I had to make a choice, but it was a very difficult one because I had a growing family. By the time I came to Canada, it became worse because cost of living was, I mean, it's quite high here. So I mean, like my kids were going to the university. My wife, coming to Canada, she had to change her career. So I had three people going to university at the same time. And so like I had to pay for tuition for all of them. That was a lot of load on me. And the only way that could happen without me having them to go taking student loan was to make sure that I made more money. So if the more money I made depended on how far away I was from them, then that was what I did. It was a risk. Sorry, it wasn't. I mean, like not a risk, but it was a price that I had to pay, and we all understood that. But when it began to tell on my health as well, then it became more serious. And during that time that we were asked to stay home, that was the first time that it dawned on me that something needed to be done as fast. I'd always wanted something to be done. Every opportunity that I saw, in the past were opportunities that required that I also be present. So that was not a solution, right? Uh, so like when I was home for that period that we asked to stay, made it fast because at that point in time I was about 27 years married, and that was the first time in my life, in our married life, that I was going to be home with my family or my wife, for 2 months or 6 weeks in a row. It never happened before. I usually used to be away for like 8 months, 9 months, cumulatively within a year. So I could be gone for like 8 weeks. I'll be back home for like 3 weeks or four and gone again like that. But I never had the opportunity. So that was when it dawned on me that yeah, something had to be done. And then I found this. That's made a change for me.
That's awesome. Wow. 27 years, you never celebrate your anniversary. Oh my God. That's
Well,
really.
no, like in between 27 years, there were years I had the opportunity to celebrate my anniversary. I think I
Okay.
remember my 10th year anniversary, I was home. But
I see.
most of the time I was never home. You see, like it was not as if I was going to go for like 9 months or 8 months like that,
Mm,
but cumulatively, it was like that. And then
yeah.
when I came here, it go was because I needed to make more money, so that means I needed to be further away. But what I said was that, you know, for 27 years at that time, I never had the opportunity of being in the same space with my wife
Mm,
for 6 weeks or 8 weeks in a row.
wow.
So
Yeah, that's one of the blessings having this business. Yeah, because I know so many people in the community. Um, they even replace their full time income with this business because some people just say, "Oh my God." Is it even possible to do that? If is it even possible you quit the job and then you're running this business full time? Yes, it is because there's so many people, they have a different whys, they have a different reason why they're running the business. Some people just don't like their jobs, some people just want to look for another extra, or some people just didn't have a job before and coming to this business they end up um, having an income now. And some people who actually have a previous job as an employee, this business can even surpass their salary. So how amazing is that? So I can relate to you a little bit, because I'm self-employed as well, and I know if we don't work, we won't get paid. So at least we know we have always to trade our time with money, because if we don't active, working so hard and spend a lot of time, we won't get the income that we wanted. But yeah, that's a good thing about this business. So, do you have any question to Femi Kamaya?
Yeah. So I had a goosebump. So I mean, like people have their own story, right? You know, like some jobs so demanding that need our time. Like Femi's job, like need to be away, like for oil gas industry is
Mm.
a good career, but they have no options to go back, you know, to the family. So good thing like this business give the option that we can choose what's best for our family. Thank you for sharing that, Femi. And my question is, you know,
Yeah.
uh, so many people out there very skeptical, which is normal to be skeptical. But do you have that moment that when you start a business, because first, people are skeptical because is this real? And the second one is like, do we have to be a certain, you know, because like mostly people like say it's like, oh, only a lot of women that doing this business. I don't see a lot of men. Is it only for women or for men? But like that's why we invite you here to inspire that, you know, maybe you can tell more about it, that we know that we don't have any specific
Gender.
requirement, you know, to start a business. But like maybe you can inspire people out there that still skeptical. They have to have a degree, because now with the employee we have, like, you know, government employee, oil gas and pharmacists, they think that, oh, has to be, you know, a certain degree, or yeah, to be able to start the business. Maybe you can share and inspire.
I mean, I'm so glad that we have, various, I mean, like various fields of endeavor, right here on this table, the three of us, self-employed, pharmacist and an engineer, so that makes it, in fact, that alone just shows that we're from different walks of life. I've come across accountants. I had a very nice conversation with a pediatrician from Minnesota last week. You know, and just like people say as well, like they say that doctors they earn so much money, so why would a doctor be looking for a year? And I found that that's something that we had in common. But what we had in common is the fact that, being a doctor is like you're having a potential, just as I was as a directional dealer in the oil field. I had the potential to make the money, but that money won't come to me if I didn't go out. So if for any reason, God forbid, I'm incapacitated, I couldn't go out there, you know. I just had all those skills. It makes no sense. So likewise, doctors as well. So I mean, like a lot of people work. Some people do extra hours. Some people do multiple shifts. You know, when I was on the rig, I worked 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the evening, and as a supervisor, I will have to have woken up much earlier, to attend meetings maybe about 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. So like that meant I was doing like at least 13 hours every day, and I did this 24/7. It was not as if that was a day for rest, because the client that you're supporting, they're putting so much money, paying millions of dollars, to work on most offshore rigs or drill ships, right? Some of those operations, like they could cost as much as $1 million a day operating cost. So, like there's no room, for you to slack or to take a holiday and all that, So, uh, in as much as while you are still young, you're able to do all those things. Besides all the other things that you miss on the outside, right? There's fatigue in the body. You may not notice, but over time it begins to show. But back to your question with regards to skepticism, of course, there's so much skepticism, right? And I think it's a nice thing and it's a good thing also to be skeptical. Because being skeptical, like I said to somebody, I believe that it's a kind of intuition that God gave us so that we are able uh, to measure levels of risks so that we don't put ourselves in harm's way. But in as much as skepticism is good, it's only good when you are using to your advantage. You use it to to do all your due diligence that are necessary, and then you move on. But you can't be skeptical to the point that you get stuck in the situation that you are in. You know, like you begin to overthink things and never get anything done. Because at that point in time, of what use is your skepticism? So, yes, I was skeptical, and I've not seen anybody within our system that was not skeptical. Even some people that I've talked to, that right from the first day they saw the business, they knew that this was what they wanted to do. They were still skeptical. They were still wondering, is this real? Will this work for me? Because being real is another thing. Whether or not it's going to work for me is another thing that people think about. But most of the time, for most of us that are coming from this employee mindset, we're so used to getting paid, working 2 weeks and getting paid 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks you get paid. We're not used to having to stay without getting paid in 2 weeks. So a lot of things happen. And I think what happens to most men is the fact that men are very logical. Men want to be able to ensure that if you put two and two together is four, you know. And it does not mean that if you put two and two together in a business, it doesn't equal four. But then where I think most men have a problem is that, in the manner in which they are logical is the old school, you know, they are used to seeing things done the normal way, the conventional way. So some things that is taken out of the normal way raises this doubt. And of course, being men, knowing that most of the time, right, the buck, the financial box of the family rests on your shoulder. And you don't want to put your family through strains or whatever, makes you a bit more careful. As against situations with women, and I'm not saying this despite in any gender, but generally, like what you see that with most women is that they play the supportive role, and most times, right, they want to support in such a way that they don't want to see their loved one, that's their husband, right, being put under so much pressure all the time that they want to be able to be there for him to help out. So in that manner of being able to help out, like maybe let me see if I can assist my husband bringing maybe additional $500, $1,000 a month, if you could help. That's what bring most women into the business. And of course, you now get into the business and you now see that, okay, after some time you're actually getting maybe multiples of the $1,000 they are looking for. And then that's when you see people now start saying, okay, what, I leave my job and I do all that. So yes, it's a good thing to be skeptical. But like I said to some other men as well, you see, like the bills, the inflation that we experience, the policies from the government or from the organizations that shape the economy of our nations, wherever it is that we live, affects us. And as they affect us, they affect the women as well. So we are not immune, from all those policies and their effects. So having something on the side becomes very important. You can never overemphasize the fact that it's very important to have something on the side. Like I said earlier on, right? Like I mean, I work in the oil and gas industry. I've never seen a company. I've never seen uh, um, an industry where people are laid off fastest, like the oil and gas industry. Throughout my career in the oil and industry, sorry, I mean like in the oil and gas industry, that's span over 25 years. You know, I must have witnessed, I must have witnessed about 10, 15 downturns, right? When activity just ceases. Because the investors, I mean, like every company is looking at the bottom line, no matter how big the company is, right? They're looking at the cost of a barrel of oil vis-a-vis their production cost. If that cost of oil, if it goes down, they're not making so much money because their production cost still going to stay about the same. So like if the producing company is not drilling for oil because the price is low, they feel that it doesn't make any sense for them to sell oil at that time, or to keep having so much production at that time because their their bottom line doesn't make any sense. They just reduce their activities. The kind of company that I work for was a service company. We go to provide services, to those producing companies, right? So if the producing companies are not drilling for oil, for instance, what are we doing? And if we are not going to be doing anything, the company will just probably just keep a few people that they feel that are essential and get rid of some people. So I've seen people being fired, and hired back in 3 months or 6 months. I've seen people being fired and hired back in 1 year. And I've seen people being fired and their career terminates completely. So uh, that's one of the things that you can't control. You can't control that. And uh, what about things that happen to our lives that we can't control? Like I was talking about the lady, the practitioner I was speaking with in the course of the week. I mean, like her testimony was just so, I was so emotional. She's a pediatrician. She had just had one of the days she was in bed. She had a cry of her baby. She wanted to attend to her. She just suddenly realized she couldn't stand up. And that was when they discovered that she had a stroke. So you can imagine. So she had the potential of making so much money and being a pediatrician. But I mean, what's she going to be able to do now when she had the stroke? But thank God that she got healed. Everything went back to normal. But by the time she went back to work was when it dawned on her that, I can't live my life depending on activity that I do that requires my physical presence. I mean, so like that was just like I said earlier on, all that you know as a doctor, all that you know as an engineer, as a pharmacist, all those things, they become an opportunity, a potential for you to make money. But God forbid, if something is wrong with our health, not even the policies of the companies now, something is wrong with our health, how are we going to be able to generate an income? Not even in this part of the world where the bills don't stop coming. So that's why it becomes essential. And that does not recognize whether you are a man or a woman. And that's why of late you are beginning to see, men coming into the business in their droves because, I mean, the economies are not as predictable as they used to be in the past. You can't say you have a job now and they are sure, okay, you are paid 150 grand in a year and you are sure that things will remain that way because inflation is going up. Your salaries are not remaining the same. And most of the companies that render services to your home, for instance, I just checked my water bill today, and I saw it was crazy. It was like two times what I used to pay sometime last year for 1 month. You know, but what am I going to do? I can't say I can only complain if I want to complain, but it doesn't make any sense for me to waste my time complaining because at the end of the day, I know I have to pay it. Otherwise, I won't get. Becomes essential for us to be able to have something to do on the side.
Yeah, things has
Sorry, let me
changed,
just
right?
close this
Yeah.
bed. This,
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, things
yeah,
has
things have
changed.
changed.
Yeah, since pandemic. So because we used to like is normalized in our thoughts that like okay, going to school, going to job, and job is like gonna be forever, right? But since pandemic and now with this like situation right now, things change. Nothing is guaranteed anymore because I've seen like so many people like
Yeah,
years and years they built their career in one of the company that's a huge company, and they decided like not anymore, and you have to start
mm,
from zero again. So that's kind of like really worry, like worrying like what's gonna be the next generation. That's why this business either like kind of like have that kind of security feeling that sometimes like when you have no security feeling you just work hard and it affects your mentality and physically, and sometimes you just don't feel well, and then but you have to be well to just what you say to be able to do the job,
yeah,
to go to work, but like if you feel like you're not present with your family and then you have to do those, and then what's the life is for. That's one of my reasons to to have this security, to have a backup plan, and the due diligence that you said. We have like a layer to have that info session. Like first you just reach to one of us here, and then you will see the free info session, and that you will find out like the big picture of this business and the testimonial. And if you like what you see, we kind of like guide you to step by step in order for you to start this business. There's always a layer for you to decide, and then for you to do your own research and make your own informed decision. But the thing is, if you don't if we still do the same thing like we used to, just depends on just one source of income, and then I think it's not gonna be reliable anymore. And I like that the fact that this business is legitimate and also can build the legacy to our kids. We don't know what's the generation. I see that the entry level now is all AI. So all the students, like all the college students, is gonna be entry level, right? Like how they gonna get the experience if we don't have prepare for them for now. If you have anything to add, Kaviki and Maureen.
Yeah, I'm so related to what Femi said regarding the things that we can't control. So basically, having an income um, based on the employee side, because we can't control our income like Femi said, even though we have a good career. But if the company couldn't survive anymore, couldn't sustain anymore, like it or not, they have to cut the costs. So the first thing that they do is actually
yeah.
reduce their employees. So it's no matter how high
The head
you are
count.
in the company. If the company is going down, the company's in administration or whatever you want to call it, there's nothing that can um, survive you from that situation. So that's, as Femi said, that's why it's very essential to have backup or to have a side hustle. It's not just for lifestyle only, but this is actually our safety net as well. I'm myself, I can feel it because I'm having a traditional business, and I don't know how long I can do this because I'm over 50 now. So when you growing old, you won't be able to do as much as physical work anymore, like when you were 30 years old or 40 years old. So when you are like 60 or 70, you probably want to start enjoy your life from the hard work that you've done past years, right? You want to enjoy it. So how can you enjoy it if you have to still working to pay mortgage, to pay bills, to pay household, to pay everything? Because you can't get out in that situation. And when the time you want to enjoy your life, it's probably too old already, and you can't really enjoy it because you really limited in movement and everything. So that's something, that's why I actually start running this business, because I don't think I can do the physical job when I was when I'm 70. So this is actually one of my reason I want to retire early. So
Can
so
I say something, please? You
yeah.
know, when you start talking about, about to enjoy the proceed of the works or the
Mm,
labors that you have done,
mm,
when you were younger, that was the way things were
mm,
in the times of our parents,
mm,
you know. But with the way things are now, like Maya said earlier on, right? You could predict
mm,
the way things were going, but like there's so much unpredictability now in this I don't want to say century, because it didn't start until just since when that incident in 2020 thereabout, when
yeah.
things just started shifting and things just started changing. So like the idea of going to school, uh have the best grades, get the best job, that was driving force for most of us, growing up by our parents. I
Mm,
mean, like they used to tell us as Nigerians, that our parents would say, I mean, like if you had 95% score in math, a parent will ask you, did anybody score 100?
mm,
Yeah, better be that nobody did, because somebody scored higher than you. The question will be, do they have more edge than you? Because they expect you to be able to compete. So that was the whole idea of going to school and do it, so I could compete. But the
mm,
competition that we knew of was just the competition with being an employee. So now, and we thought that by doing that, getting the best job, we will earn well and we'll have good life. But good life is not just in having to be able to put that mortgage, and pay mortgage continuously.
mm,
Good life is, I mean, it has to do with certain time in your life. You should be able to take time off whenever you want to. You should be able to live, to do whatever you want to do at whatever time. But what we find out now is that most people are retired and they're still going back to look for some jobs,
mm,
just to be able to sustain themselves, because whatever the pension that they calculated was going to be good enough for them,
yeah.
when they were about retiring, inflation has eaten up all of that. You know, besides inflation, changes, several other changes, but but even having said that, right, one thing that I realized also is that, you see, like I was opportune to meet one Jamaican lady that lived up to 95 years before she died. And when she was 90, my wife and I would go and pick her from church, sorry, from her home, to drive her to church, because she was trying to drive at some point in time. So we stopped there. And then we will bring her from church back home. There was one day, uh, we stayed about 10 minutes late in church. And by the time we were through, she was gone. So we asked somebody, did you see this woman? She said, I saw her walking. And then when we saw her next time, she said, oh, I can't just stay in one place. I just had to keep moving. She had walked to the bus stop, taken the bus, and gotten home. You know, that was when one thing that I realized. She said what keeps her going was the fact that she never stayed idle. So, like if you are doing a job, right, if you are looking at the activity, you are looking at the fact that the job is tasking your brains as well. So you're able to use your common sense, your intuition, and all that, right? While you are making money as well. Even if by the time you are retired, you have all the money in life, if you don't have anything that you are doing generate. And most of the jobs that we do that require physical presence, by the time you get to some of those ages, 65, 70, you are not able to do that anymore. That is one other thing that this business has given us opportunity to. Because at 70, at 75, at 80, you can stay with your computer and talk to people as we're talking and run your business and still make money if you want to make money. So there's no retirement in this business. So we retire to refire here. And that's what it is. That's one thing I like most about this business.
Yeah, love it. That's true. That's true, Femi. It's very, very true. Yeah. So, that's it for our exciting and amazing live talk today. So we learned so much from Femi, one of the successful individual here in our community, and then he's actually came from the oil and gas, and then he decided that he didn't want to rely solely on his job anymore, because if he doesn't work, it's the money is not going to come to his family. So that's why he decided to change the tactic, and then he's actually come to this business to make a passive income, which is you can do whatever you like. You can go travel, you can holiday, you can spend time with your loved ones, and the income still keeps coming. So and that's the beauty of this amazing business. So before we wrap it up, I don't know if Maya wants to say something. No. So as Maya said earlier, if you are curious, or if you wanted to know what we do and how our platform works, and or what's the business we are into, you guys are welcome to visit our website. Femi already has one there in the screen, so come to contact us and visit our website, or send us a message. It's gonna be below this video, and you will get access to our free info session, the 90 minutes or 20 minutes info session. You just need to put your name and your valid email address, and the access will be sent to your email. Or you can contact us or send us a message, and we will guide you through there. If you like what you see after watching that 90 minutes the session, so we can guide you through again to the next step, to see the whole package of the business plan, the income plan, the compensation plan, even the retirement plan. So that's the amazing online business that we have, because not many online business have a retirement plan. So that's what I love about this business. Okay, thank you so much, Femi, for your time. I know you're gonna go for the soccer game, so
Thank you, Femi.
yes, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Femi, for your time, and I hope
Thank you for having me.
we're probably
Yeah.
gonna see you again
Whichever.
next time, and all the best for your business and all the success to your business. So thank you everybody for watching, and I hope we will see you again next time. Okay,
And you
have a good
too.
one.
Thank you so
Bye
much, Maya.
bye.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.